everyone. Welcome to How to Use Spirit. I'm Lori, and I am so excited. My special guest today is Amber. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you.
And she is a survivor of child SA, and we are going to talk about her journey and her story today. So go ahead and introduce yourself and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about what you're doing and your book. She wrote
Yeah.
a book.
Yeah, that's a big part of why we're having this conversation, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I victim and survivor of child SA that began really early in my childhood.
Yes.
Where exactly, I don't know. That really is like the one piece of the puzzle that I
Really?
can't exactly pinpoint. And I think that a big part of that is because of the grooming process. You know, part of that is not just the touch itself.
Yeah.
It is everything that goes into getting a victim to the point of trust. And it's not even just the victim, it's the people around the victim
Yes.
as well. And so to pinpoint really where it began, that's impossible. But not only that, but as far as like the first touch too, I don't know. My bones have an idea,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't necessarily know. So I decided, I actually was about 15 years old when I wanted to write this book. But I've
Really?
realized since that had I written it from that place, it would have been this place of, oh, I'm a survivor. You know, this didn't really
Right.
affect me and that would have been so damaging because it absolutely affected me. But part of my story is that with the way that things were handled, because I did disclose at a young age, with the way that things were handled, I very much internalized the way that people were treating me and convinced myself that it didn't affect me in the ways that it was and had and would continue for my whole life.
Yes.
So the book was written and published last fall. So yeah, it's just been, and it's called Whole, My Journey to W.
And it is amazing. It is so profound. And I do the audiobook thing because I'm not a reader. I like to multitask. But anyway, I literally didn't want to stop listening when I was listening to it. It is so amazing. And you did such a great job at telling your story and keeping people. I was on the edge.
Yeah.
Like, what is this poor girl going to go through next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you. That makes me feel so good because even just the writing process, but from an Audible perspective, you know, like I'm self-published. There are errors in my story as much as I, you know, worked to edit it and even in recording it, you know, listening back, I can pinpoint where I got comfortable, you know, but
Yeah.
I'm my own worst critic. And so it's always
We all are.
interesting, to hear what people, you know, I've received nothing but positive feedback.
It's amazing.
And if there's negative feedback, it hasn't hit me,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and so it's really, it's even more validating. You know, there's huge validation and healing when people tell me that my story helped them. That's why it's out there.
Yes.
The validation that comes with being told that I told my story in a way that people could receive it and feel it.
Yes.
That's incredible.
That's
amazing. Incredible.
It's amazing. I was going to ask you a question. Now I forgot what it was.
So,
I saw on one of your social media posts the other day that you have a goal.
Yes.
Of how many books?
500.
500 books. That's insane.
Yeah.
And are you just going to keep continuing to share your healing journey?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a big part of the journey in and of itself, is that it's never until I've taken my last breath, this is not over.
Right.
And the things that I have learned about myself, about my own story, even since, I mean, during the writing process, and then recording it for Audible, that uncovered new things and just conversations and people that have read my book and that are giving feedback. It's incredible. And so yeah, it's never going to end. And that 500 number is a goal that I wanted to set for myself, where if, not if, because I knew that it would, that when we get there,
Mm-hmm.
that shows that my story has power, that people can read it, and not just hear, but absorb, to really listen. And that means that it's reaching beyond, my inner circle, and it already has.
Yeah.
So one of the really cool things that I learned with self-publishing is that typically people that self-publish don't even sell 100 copies over the lifetime of the book.
Really?
So to be like, okay, I did
Wow.
that really off the bat, and then it's just grown from there. So it's so cool to see it reach beyond my circle, and I've been contacted by complete strangers, and I'm like, I don't even see where you have a connection to me, so that means that people are finding it on Amazon or Audible. And that's the minority for sure. The majority of the people that have read my book are people that know me personally or know me through somebody who knows me personally.
Yeah. Well, I've recommended it to a few
Thank
friends.
you.
I've sent it over to them.
Thank
I'm
you.
like, you guys have to listen to this or read it, whatever.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. So I want to dive into, we can't do the whole book during an hour podcast.
Yes. Plus, we want people to read or listen.
Yes, we don't want to give away all the things. But at what age do you remember? Well, and I know, you mentioned in your book when you first had that experience, you were out playing with a friend or something, and your mom came out and caught you doing it. She was like, where did you learn that? So how old were you?
I had to have been, oh gosh, I really think that was probably around 7. What I do know is that I disclosed right before my 9th birthday. So when that all happened, I don't even know that time frame because I was being abused by my grandfather.
Yes.
But I was also being abused by my best friend. We both were her older brother.
Yes.
And so it was the older brother, that situation where I was repeating what had been done to me, that I got caught doing that. I don't know what the time frame is, and I've asked my mom, and we just don't know what that time frame between saying this is what's going on with my best friend at my best friend's house, and here's what grandpa is doing. I don't know. But 7, 8 is the time frame that sits with me. Yeah.
That's so crazy. And we're going to get into a little bit more of that later, but you are an LDS family. Yes. And the lack of support that you mention in the book with relation to that blows my mind, of how it just sweep it up under the rug, and not investigate or deal with it or anything. And has anybody from that part of your life, that past, that LDS community, have they ever reached out to you and said, oh my gosh, we should have helped you, we should have believed you, have you had any communication with that community at all?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question and part of the story. I was believed because my grandfather admitted to it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So as far as like being believed, that other than my parents, questioning me when he denied it originally, it wasn't a matter of that for me. The sweeping under the rug was, okay, this has been dealt with, and now we're never going to talk about it again.
Okay.
And it being dealt with looked like us going to court, him taking a plea in abeyance, spending no time in jail at all, 1 year of probation. And so that was the approach of just, oh, we're going to send Amber to therapy, she'll get fixed, but we're never going to talk about this again.
It's
and
over
so
with.
Yeah, so anytime that I tried to talk about it, I was punished usually with the silent treatment, and so and then the church aspect, one of the things that I talk a lot about in the book is forgiveness, because that was something that I just remember being or feeling like was an immediate requirement of me. Right? You forgive. And if you don't forgive, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
And as a child and then a young, teen, and all throughout those very formative years, that's all that I'm hearing is you're going to hell. And how am I supposed to forgive somebody who hasn't apologized? And so that really was the reason that I ended up leaving the church ultimately, was because I couldn't reconcile how a child that had done nothing wrong was going to go to hell. And whether that was said directly or indirectly really doesn't matter. That is what stuck with me.
That's how you felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So church was very interesting because I was begging to be heard, to be seen, to be validated, to be, held and just loved. And because I wasn't supposed to talk about it, I was acting out. I was being vague, in things that I was saying. I was begging for attention.
Yeah.
And I had some amazing leaders. I had some amazing people within the church that did make me feel loved. I also very much had the opposite of that. But I've had 3 therapists in my adult life that have really made a difference. Well, 3 total, but all of them, when it was my choice to go to therapy, that therapy then made a difference.
Oh,
and one of those therapists was actually a former young women's leader of mine. And she is incredible and has always been incredible, So I really try to separate the person from the religion. And sometimes I can't, but I really do try to separate, because I know that there are so many people within the LDS faith and other faiths that are there for the right reason.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
are good people. I also very much view high demand religion especially as very cult-like, and
absolutely.
once you see that, I don't think you can unsee it. And so there's a lot of anger and resentment on my part, and at this point it's not even so much anger and resentment. I don't think it's just disgust. At this point I'm just disgusted with the way that God is manipulated, and what is supposed to be love and light is turned into fear and shame.
Yes.
And so that has created huge just spiritual conflict for me, to the point where not only did I leave the church, but for a while I considered myself to be atheist, agnostic. I don't know where I sit right now, because I've had so many experiences, and I know, because then I feel like this.
Yeah.
That tells me that there is something, but that is the love and the light. That is what I believe in, is goodness. It's the love. If God exists, he only exists as love and light.
Absolutely.
If he exists as the God that I was raised to worship, he's a narcissist. And I don't want anything to do with that. So the religious side of things has been very, very interesting for me, because I genuinely do try to be very respectful of what people believe, while also setting very firm boundaries for myself.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I have wonderful, great, long-time loving friends that are members of the LDS Church and other religions, and I love them to death, but anyway, enough said about that. No. So you talked a couple times in the book about your intuition, and my intuition's telling me not to. Why did you? Why did you go? Was it you not trusting yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. A big part of that goes directly back to the faith, right? It goes back to religion, where you are told that you maneuver through life this way,
in a box. Within the confines of Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that I ever had the ability to trust myself because of that, but then also because of the trauma that I had experienced at a young age, all of the gaslighting that I experienced after the fact. So when I got to my adult years, and specifically during the most chaotic time in my life, which was several years, um, I I there was no way that I could trust myself because I was not of sound mind anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking of one very specific incident where I was violated on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was raised to be a people pleaser. I was raised to care about how people feel. And
Mm-hmm.
I went because he played on my heartstrings. He
Mm-hmm.
knew the things to say to get me to
Manipulate you.
exactly. And that
Mm-hmm.
was to make me feel bad, like I was judging him, like I was playing with him, like I had done something wrong. And if
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I did something wrong, I was going to be more inclined to make that up to him.
Yeah.
So
Make him
that,
happy.
not understanding that for the longest time and looking back now, I still have some of those tendencies, but I've worked really hard to not just trust my gut, but then to act on the things that my intuition is
Yes.
saying.
Yes. And we all struggle with that, I think. We get that feeling or that our higher selves telling us something and question, even without all the trauma, we always question, is it real? Is it I always say, is my Lori brain telling me that, or is it coming from within,
Yes. Yeah. And I
It's
think that's such a good point is that we really, I think that comes with time and
mm-hmm.
experience,
Yes,
is
absolutely.
understanding the difference,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I had been so gaslit with, from a young age that it hadn't affected me, that I couldn't possibly know what was my gut and that correct intuition
Mm-hmm.
versus, oh, Amber, you're overreacting.
Yes.
You're overreacting. You're being too sensitive. You're being dramatic.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, how was I supposed to?
Yeah. Wow. So when did your therapy journey start?
Oh, therapy started right away for me as a child.
Okay.
So right around 9, I must have cycled
Was it after
through.
the grandpa? Okay, when
Yes,
that came
yeah.
out. Okay.
Yep. So my parents, I was the only one in the family that went to therapy, and I was the only one that was abused, or at least, I mean, to this day, I'm the only one that has come forward. I get asked
Okay.
that question
I
a
was just
lot.
gonna ask you that.
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot,
mm-hmm.
but as far as I know, I'm the only one that was abused. So I was the one that was sent to therapy,
Mm-hmm.
and I must have cycled through, I don't know, 6, maybe 10. I cycled through a lot of therapists because and it was people that I knew, people that I didn't know, different modalities. I remember doing the play therapy, the sand
Yeah.
therapy, the talk therapy, like all of these different types of things. And yeah, of course my parents were trying, they wanted to get me help. But part of the problem that I can see now is that I was not the only one that needed help.
Oh
This
yeah.
was a family event, and we
Mm-hmm.
should have been working through it as a family. Instead, I was treated like I was broken and needed to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And that caused its own set of wounds.
Yeah.
So, therapy started at a very young age. I think I was probably 15 or 16 when my parents finally said, okay, we're not going to force you anymore. And then it wasn't until I was 33 years old that I sought therapy for myself.
Really?
And I think a big part of that was just the negative experiences that I had as a
Yeah.
kid. And then also once I got married, I calmed down.
Mm-hmm.
I really settled into to homemaking, and so I wasn't out dating, I wasn't sleeping around, I wasn't, out doing anything crazy.
Yes.
Um in jail, nothing like that. And so I think that I thought that I was better because I wasn't having as many trauma responses and behaviors. Although they were just showing up in different ways. I wasn't getting in trouble, but my relationships with myself, with my husband at the time, the way that I was parenting, it just was showing up in different ways. But I couldn't know that. I didn't understand the way that the abuse had affected me. And so anything that I had done throughout my life until I was 40 plus years old and read The Body Keeps the Score and started doing a whole bunch of research and understood how trauma affects literally changes the chemicals in your brain and all of these different things, understood trauma responses and behaviors. I just told myself that I was bad. I really internalized that as I was a bad kid. And you mix the abuse that happened with the high demand religion and the expectations of being damn near perfect,
right?
And submitting and just all of these things that I couldn't possibly do because I hadn't healed from something that had damn near broke me.
Yeah. So that's interesting that it kind of manifests in other forms.
Yeah.
What would you be willing to share an example of maybe what in the marriage side where it came up? It bubbled up in a different form.
Yeah.
Like give us an example of what kind of form
so
how it appeared.
My first marriage is a really good example of that because we got pregnant 2 months into dating.
Wow.
And he wasn't from here. In fact, we didn't meet here. We met in Philadelphia, but we did the very Utah thing, and that was to get engaged, And I just realized very, very soon after getting engaged that is not what I was ready for. Broke off our engagement, had our son, and then we ended up reconciling and getting back together and getting married. But the day after my wedding, I bawled my eyes out. I knew that I had made a mistake because I just didn't, I felt like I was doing the thing that I was supposed to do. Yep. And I couldn't understand why it just felt so wrong. And I spent 10 years in that relationship trying to build the life that I was told that I was supposed to have and that I was supposed to want. And so that showed up ultimately in divorce.
Yeah.
Right. That showed up in me not even being able to communicate what it is that I needed because I didn't know what I needed.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I should have been in therapy already. I didn't know how to communicate my needs. I didn't know. I remember learning about love languages, and being like, oh, well, my love language is touch, and telling him, like, when you love somebody, you show them. Yes. And to me, I'm communicating that is through touch. I remember standing in our kitchen and doing dishes or something, and him walking past me, and me just having this thought of like, just touch me. My lower back, just acknowledge through touch that you see me. And him not doing that, and me just feeling like I was not desirable, and that he didn't love me. We were simply coexisting. And it wasn't until later that I understood more about love languages, and you need to understand how people show love. It's not just what I need.
Right.
It's what are his love languages.
Yeah.
So I've learned at 45 years old to ask, how do you give love? How do you receive love? And sometimes those are the same things.
Yeah.
But, and then being able to communicate, here's how I give it, here's how I receive it. So yes, being married at a very young age, that definitely came into play. But from a motherhood, from a parenting perspective, that my trauma also showed up very much there in different ways when when I mean, I remember my boys being in diapers and just having this fear of changing diapers because what if I
Oh my gosh.
had any urge to do anything to these little babies?
Yeah.
I don't,
That's
there's not a bigger fear than
mm-hmm.
you being you then perpetrating. For me, there was not a bigger fear. That, and then my kids also experiencing that from somebody else, because I am pretty sure that I would have murdered somebody.
Yeah.
Um, and so just having to work through that, and thank God that was not anything that ever happened
Mm-hmm.
for me. But I remember, and I have never talked about this
Oh
actually.
wow.
I remember, being a teenager, and I have one brother, and I remember him just being little, and he would come sit on my lap. And that was my grandfather. That was a big part of the process, as he would
I
first have
remember
me
that.
sit on his lap.
Uh-huh.
And so when my little
Beautiful.
brother would want to come, there's 8 years between us, so when my little brother is 4 years old and I'm 12, and he's wanting to come sit on my lap, I just feel weird, and I have to tell him that I have to get him off of my lap.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I just never wanted to be somebody, especially because as a little kid,
Mm-hmm.
I had recreated or done what was being done to me by my best friend's older brother, and I carried so much shame for that,
Uh-huh.
that it wasn't until I started writing my book back in 2022, I writing this book and being um, transparent was really important to me.
Yeah.
But that was the hardest thing for me to talk about, because even as an adult, I just carried so much shame that you know, understanding I was what, 7, maybe 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And actually I remember thinking in my mind, I thought that I was older than that. I thought I was like 10. And for some reason, that still was like, oh, you were old enough to know better.
Oh.
You are so gross. You are so gross.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I had a conversation with my mom, as I'm trying to just really work out a timeline. That was a big part of the process that took me a while, but thankfully I was able to do. But in having a conversation with my mom about it, she's like, no, nope, you would have been younger. And definitely once I saw court papers, then I knew for sure the year that I had disclosed. So then I was like, no, I was,
Working backwards. Yeah.
I'm 7 years old. Okay, when I'm thinking about my boys being 7, what did they really know? And could I look at a 7-year-old and say, you are a pedophile?
Yeah.
You are an abuser? No, I could
Wow.
not.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that my mom said that when she told, because it actually had happened with 2 of the little boys that my mom babysat that were a couple years younger than me. So when she told their moms what had happened, that their moms had more concern for me.
Oh.
Um, and that helped,
Mm-hmm.
to know that they weren't angry with me. Um, that really, and then just understanding I had to give myself grace and forgiveness, because I literally did not know. The only thing that I know is that I knew that it was wrong, because I was hiding when I did it, but that is
Yeah.
also what we were hiding, right?
Uh-huh.
When it was being done to me, we were hiding. So I knew that it was supposed to be secret,
Yeah.
but not that I would have really understood why.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I honestly have to be very grateful for, is
Mm-hmm.
that I got caught, because that started the process of me being able. I just had an epiphany. See, I told you, every time I have this conversation,
You think of
something
something
new
else.
happens.
Uh-huh.
When I told my mom what happened, my mom went to his parents and said, this is what's going on. This is not okay. I was stuck up for in that situation.
Yeah.
I was believed. And the only thing that I know is that that family ended up moving away.
Yeah.
But I was believed. And my mom probably instilled in me the ability to then tell her later about my grandfather, which was a more egregious everything.
Yes.
And then harder, much, much harder to be able to tell. So it's just, I hate the saying that everything happens for a reason, but also everything, I can find reasoning in anything that I've experienced, and had I not been caught, had I not been confronted, had my mom not believed me that I was doing that because it was being done for me, had my mom not then approached the parents and stopped everything, I have no way of knowing.
Where would your story might be different.
Exactly.
Right?
But I do know that she helped me in that situation. Because I do know for a fact that children disclosing it's rare. It's rare. Usually people don't disclose CSA until much later in life.
Yeah.
So
I have some childhood friends that I grew up with, and their dad was abusing. Well, the one friend I was closest to, they found, and there were adults when all of it came out.
Yeah.
The sister was being abused, and then so she started going to therapy, and then she started remembering things, and then it just snowballed from there. But yeah, they were older, probably, I'm gonna say in their late 20s, maybe early 30s before it all came to the surface, I guess, bubbled up. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Did the family that moved, the best friend's brother, did you know if there was any, I mean, back then you wouldn't have, but did anybody mention anything of abuse in that family?
So what I know is it was happening to me, and my best friend. They were adopted. So do I know for a fact?
Right.
No. But what we do know is that, especially, in youth, if it's happening, it's probably happened. I'm a perfect example of that. I wouldn't have known to do those things, or I think there's a difference between childhood curiosity and wanting to understand, private parts and why a boy and a girl are different. And then obviously, perpetrating any type of thing. But when we're young, and to your point, when that is all that you can't know that it's wrong until you're out of that situation, until somebody else tells you, or you find out somehow. But until you do, what your body knows is that it's been violated. It doesn't feel right, even when your body is reacting to those things, and that's very normal. And that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, is, well, and I know in different situations, their climax is being reached and all these things, and it's so conflicting because your body is reacting to something that your brain is like alarming on, and the rest of your body is alarmed. Your whole nervous system is saying this isn't right. But we cannot control that. And yet so many people blame themselves and hold so much shame for something that was beyond their control in so many different aspects.
Wow. Again, everybody need to go get her book, but your story, the details and the things and that you go into in your book is amazing, and being so vulnerable, and because everybody knows your story, and that's just a teeny piece of it, that is, but thank you for sharing all that.
Well, that was
vulnerability, and it's crazy. I don't know if I would be able to do that.
And
honestly,
not everybody can. And at the end of my book, I really make a point to say, like, I don't want anybody to carry shame because they can't share their story.
Mm-hmm.
What I do encourage everybody is to get your story out.
Yes.
Whether that's a journal, a close friend, there's different modalities, just even creative expression, pottery. Find a way to tell your story though.
Yeah.
Because it festers inside of us and it does so much damage. We've already been hurt by something that is out of our control. What is in our control is the way that we work through things in our lives.
Yeah.
So strongly encourage people to do that. I consider myself blessed to be able to share my story. One of the things that I have learned over the past 8 months is it takes a toll. It is exhausting. I will go home after this and I am going to need to take a nap.
Yeah.
That's not going to stop me from doing this, but this is so important to me because this is how I make sense of the senseless, is by being able to help other people. And I help myself every single time. I'm helping myself along the way too. So it offers an immense amount of validation plus healing. And like I just look at all these things that I uncover and pieces that I'm able to put together, and just these incredible realizations that I have that just further help me help other people too. In connecting dots, there is so much healing that comes from that, because it leads to, forgiveness of self. It can lead to forgiveness for other people if that's something that you feel like you need as part of your journey. Just being able to have timelines and just understanding, but it's really hard to do those things if we're not allowing ourselves to think about it. And if we're talking, we're thinking.
Yes.
But we don't have to be talking to think, right? That's what I mean. So if it needs to be through art or through different ways, find a way to get it out.
Yeah.
Being transparent was really important to me because I want other victim survivors. I feel like it's important to use the word victim so that we actually have that to begin with, instead of just saying, oh, I'm supposed to just be a survivor.
That makes sense.
Let yourself heal from victim forward.
Yeah.
But so that other people that have been through, abuse, if they don't understand what trauma responses and behaviors look like, maybe they'll see some of what they've done in my story. And then the other piece is for people who haven't experienced it, but are supporting somebody that has, because everybody knows somebody, at least somebody, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So
100%.
Yes. So I've actually created a company that is built all around my book, plus help training that helps people understand how trauma shows up in behavior, and that understanding that is going to should lead to a lot more empathy and compassion, because we're looking through the lens of what happened to you versus what's wrong with you. And there's a whole book by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey that really dives very deep into that. But I love that lens of approaching people from what happened to you, what have you been through, versus what the fuck is wrong with you.
Right.
That is just, and that's this training that I've developed in conjunction with my former therapist, who is now consulting and working, we're working together. That's how he defines being trauma informed, is that it's approaching things from a lens of curiosity rather than judgment.
Yes.
And
that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does our world look like if and when we do that?
Yeah.
Much more empathetic, much more compassionate.
So tell us about your company. You did a little bit, but tell us some more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the company is called Whole Heals. And right now it really is set up with two different branches. And I have the Voice Collective, and the Voice Collective is anything story. So it includes my book, different speaking engagements, and then I host community events too, where I bring together sharers and listeners, because we all have a
Oh,
story, but our stories can't go anywhere without the people that are willing to listen to them,
yeah.
right? To hold space for
That's
that.
amazing.
And the healing that is created through community is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually was at an event not too long ago and met this really cute girl that was sitting next to me, and after everything we're just talking, and she said, you know, something to the effect of, I had a really good childhood, like I can't relate. And so what she was saying made me feel like she was saying, I can't necessarily support you, you know, and almost like she was feeling bad for having a good childhood.
Uh-huh.
And I said, you know what, you are so needed, and I value people like you so much that don't, because this is the most taboo subject
Oh yeah.
ever, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
childhood abuse. And so for somebody that hasn't been through it but that wants to understand and support people, do you have any idea how that helps heal those of us that have? We need you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for, being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading the book or sharing the story or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So the Voice Collective is all that. And these events are meant to bring together community in an environment where it is intimate enough that everybody can be part of whatever the event is. And then I have the Leadership Collective, and that is the training that we have developed where we're going into, industries and organizations that don't typically receive trauma informed training, which
Mm-hmm.
really is most industries outside of healthcare, maybe some law enforcement, but with the intent of helping companies and organizations
Mm-hmm.
see people human from a human perspective.
Yes.
These are human behaviors. When somebody is chronically late or is disruptive or
Mm-hmm.
maybe is not engaging, you know, people don't just do those things for no reason. We Especially these things that we would consider behaviors,
Uh-huh.
that is either going to come from like a neurobiological perspective, or trauma.
That's insane.
And sometimes it's both, and so what does that look like if and that really came from my own experience in tech and just, my career journey and understanding that it wasn't that I had management that didn't care. I
Mm-hmm.
had management that didn't understand
Yes.
that the words that they were using in different, if I was going in and saying, hey, this has happened and I'm upset, instead of saying, oh, I can see you're upset, and how can I help you? What can we do? Words like, oh, I don't think that that's what is happening, you know, or are you sure? Or just, those are things that I've heard my whole life. And
Yeah.
so I'm then questioning my own reality,
Mm-hmm.
not because that was the intention behind it, but it took so many different situations like that for me to realize, oh yeah, this isn't because they don't care. They don't understand.
Right.
Why don't they understand? Well, if they haven't been through these things, why would they understand?
Mm-hmm.
So helping corporations, especially people leaders, but this is applicable to anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
And I really have this theory that if we can heal the workplace, we can heal the home, because all of that is going to trickle down,
Yes.
and we spend the majority of our adult life at work or in a
Working.
work environment, right, with colleagues.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of damage that is done at work in toxic
Mm-hmm.
work cultures and different things like that. That is my
Wow.
goal with all of this, is to help educate, raise awareness, increase retention with, when we're specifically talking about companies,
Mm-hmm.
increase retention, decrease lawsuits and HR complaints, decrease insurance premiums because people are not needing to use as many sick days.
Yeah.
Stress makes us sick.
I was just going to say that. That comes up, bubbles up in your body as
Yes.
health issues.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's this is all costing us an I can't say that, exorbitant amount of money. And let's hit it from a financial aspect,
Mm-hmm.
but let's hit it
Get
from a human aspect too, and just
yes.
help people be able to show up as their authentic selves.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do also, we put some emphasis on neurodivergence as well.
Oh, wow.
You know, and oftentimes neurodivergent, I don't even want to say behaviors, but parts of autism and ADHD, you know, an inability to concentrate, or being overstimulated, you know, somebody that might need the lights to be dim or quiet over, you know, a crazy open work environment. These are things that need to be understood and accommodated rather than seen as, you know, just somebody that's being lazy or disruptive or so yes, just really helping people to understand people.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And just the ability to
Yeah.
understand each other.
Yes. Yeah.
And operate from that empathy side and not be so judgy.
Yes.
For
yes.
one
That's
thing.
the goal. That's the goal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to work with any companies yet? Or you?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is so my therapist works at Utah Valley University.
Uh-huh.
And he works in the psychology department.
Nice.
So we were able to pilot our program with his department a couple weeks ago, and it was very well received. So it was really cool to go into a group of therapists and say,
I love that.
hey, here's what we've developed. And I told him, I said, this is a really cool opportunity for me because we're going into workplaces, you know, to deliver this. So you guys are all at work. So you've got that perspective, and then you're all therapists. You all have trauma training to some extent or another, right? So you already have more of a knowledge base than your average, you know, Joe in these other places. So tell me what we got right, what we missed, and did we teach you anything? And we taught them things, all of them, even the ones that were like, have a focus on trauma, we were able to teach them things. And so we really approach it from you know, Doc, who does the clinical side of things and has the degree and all of that, and me, who has the lived experience, you know. So story plus clinical is where I think the most healing happens, because you need all of that.
I agree. Wow. So fast forward to today, you've been through so much. You're now, I feel like this is going to be huge for you.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So moving forward, how is Amber today? How is Amber the last, you know, couple, 3 years?
Yeah.
There's so much more in the book and so many different trials and everything. It's amazing that you're still sitting here. I mean, sitting here honestly, and having gone through everything that you have. But what does today look like for you?
Today is really exciting. It's also very stressful. You know,
Yeah.
I left at the very end of the book. I talk about what the next part is, and it was just starting as I released the book. But, you know, I left a very good career, a very good paycheck.
Yes.
And said, okay, I'm going to start this company, you know. And I had several conversations with myself, but the biggest one was, what if it doesn't work? You know, then what?
What if it doesn't?
Yep. And that was my answer.
Yeah.
Amber, you've been homeless. Like, where you've come from, you will never, ever be again.
No.
So if you crawled out of that hole, you can do anything. Yes. I'm not somebody who is afraid of starting over. Sometimes I feel a little bit crazy. I'm willing to take some of the risks that I am, especially right now.
Yes.
You know, I've got a big move that is happening this week. My youngest just graduated high school. So I'm, you know, I have 3 boys, 2 of them have been at home. I mean, always. And so I just went into perimenopause. Like, these are huge changes that are happening for me. All at once.
Yes.
So it has been overwhelming, stressful, hard. I've cried. But I'm so proud of myself. And if I'm going to bet on anybody, and if I'm going to go all in, it's going to be on me.
Yeah.
And so I know that I have what it takes to be successful
Mhm.
one way or another. And I very, very much believe in this company. I believe in the book and my ability to tell my story and to continue to share it. I
Mhm.
believe in the training that we've developed and the mission behind all of that.
Yeah.
And when I look at this company, I'm like, this is huge. This is so scalable. I can take this to so many different places. There's just, it's amazing. It's really, I can't truly wrap my head around
Yeah.
all of the possibilities. And I've
Yeah.
really had to slow myself down a little bit and say, let's just concentrate on one thing at a time and
Yeah.
build from there.
Yeah.
So the Amber sitting before you is in a very transitional phase.
Mhm.
So have me back in a year and I'm going to
Yes,
say,
I would
guess
love
what? You know,
to.
like
Guess
this
what
is
I'm
where
doing
we have been.
now?
Yeah. And there's, I mean, I'm writing my next book, you know, because
Wow.
that this stage and what is
Mhm.
coming is the next, it's the next half of my life, you
Yeah.
know. So I've survived a lot, and
Mhm.
this is the thriving part of life. And so I'm as equal, probably actually more excited to tell this part
Yeah.
because this is, and it's not without trials and
Of
tribulations, still
course.
never is,
Of
right?
course.
But my ability to handle harder things,
Mhm.
and oh, if I am not through the toughest part of my life, I, I am. Let's just put that out there.
You
I
are.
am,
Yes.
you know, so now it's just the growing and it's the running with so much of the work that I've done and the healing and being in a place where I get to get out of my comfort zone of chaos
Mhm.
and I get to create peace.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel this way. It's your passion.
Oh yeah.
Why wouldn't it be
Yes.
successful
Exactly.
for you?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And I'm very much looking forward to not pinching my pennies again.
Uh-huh.
But that's part of the growth too, is just
Mhm.
like how uncomfortable can I be and still believe in what I'm doing? I really think that that's part of what needed and needs to be happening right now, is just to show myself like, girl, you've got this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing.
So.
Yes, that's so amazing. Um, have you have you been in relationships and stuff since the book? I don't want to get into I don't want to give too much away.
So I really think that I'm gonna start the next book with, hey y'all, remember when I thought I was falling in love? Yeah.
Okay.
That's a whole story in and of itself. And
Well, don't give
no,
away
I'm not
anything
going
if we're
to.
not.
No.
Yeah.
But relationships are a part of life, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that's really changed for me is recognizing that not just in romantic relationships, but relationships in general, that
Yeah.
I was chasing love. And
Mhm.
so I had lots of love around me, but the people that I was putting my time and my energy into were the ones who weren't reciprocating that.
Yes.
And what
Yeah.
has switched is I've said, no, fuck that. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah,
Let me
good
focus
for
on the
you.
love that I do have.
Mhm.
And so yes, there are some beautiful relationships in my life. And you know, romantically, yes,
Awesome.
it's a lot to have to work through, but the ability to work through things
Mhm.
is something that has and is changing for me, and just, you know, really figuring out not just what I want, but what I truly am capable of giving as well.
Because when you're not healed, healthy, you can't give that,
No.
give love to somebody.
Yeah.
We have to
No.
be our best selves, I feel like.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I just did a post about this the other day, and this came through, you know, conversations and with someone, and ultimately asking myself, like, am I ready for the type of relationship that I want? And my own answer surprised me, and it was, I don't know. Because I know what I want and I know the kind of partner I am. I don't question that. I'm supportive, I'm loving, I'm thoughtful, I'm those things. But I'm also somebody who had not really truly experienced a relationship until this year after my second divorce.
Yeah.
And so I was getting triggered and treating that person more like he was my ex. And because I was reacting to my ex more than I was reacting to the person in front of me.
Yeah.
And I really had to have some hard conversations, you know, both with him and with myself, and really face some very, very uncomfortable feelings and truths. And in the past, that discomfort would have resulted in me just sabotaging things, either ending them or sabotaging them so they couldn't come back around.
Right.
And I haven't done that, you know, and
Okay.
so there's constant growth, there's constant learning. I want to be in love. I want to be in love. I want to have somebody be in love with me in a very healthy way. And so I'm still learning what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I do believe that so much of healing comes through and with other people. But I also don't want to be somebody who is bleeding on people from wounds that they didn't create. So I'm trying to find that balance.
Yes.
Where do I allow somebody to come in and heal with me and hurt with me without doing too much damage to somebody who does not deserve it, or any damage? I don't want to do damage, you know, but what do I allow them to experience from my pain and my traumas? That's a line that I don't know that I have the answer to that, but I'm in the middle of trying to find it.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. That's awesome. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Besides, you're gonna have to give us your website and all that information.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you'd like to share with everyone that you feel might be helpful that we haven't necessarily talked about?
Not that I don't think that we've talked about. I just think, you know, I really just want to hit back on the intuition, you know, and the spiritual side of all of this, because that's what this is about to begin with, and I appreciate that aspect of it. But I do what you can to trust yourself.
Yes.
But so much of that is healing from the things that have hurt us, and we can't heal what we don't understand. But our gut does.
Yes.
You know, our gut does. So lean on that. Do whatever you need to do to find healing through whatever, you know, and it's not linear. I think we all know that.
Right.
But my journey is not going to be your journey. And what worked for me won't necessarily work for you. Maybe some of what I've done. And that's the importance of us talking about this and different people sharing what
creating
their journeys.
Your community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, so just be open to learning and be open to exploring, because that's where you're really going to be able to be in tune with who you are. You know, we have to get to our core. We have to be willing to really sit with the things that are uncomfortable. And I don't know that you can trust your intuition without loving who you are. I just don't.
That's very true. Yeah, that is very true. And that's why we do this podcast. The whole spiritual thing, it doesn't matter. How do you spirit?
Yeah, and I love that.
Whatever works for you.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So I love that you're creating that community, and we need community so bad right now.
Yes.
For all the different things.
Yes, I agree with you.
So go ahead and share your website. Where can people get in touch with you? How do your Instagram, all the things?
Yeah, awesome. So my website is up. It's wholeheals.com. It needs a revamp, but there is a lot of information there. So you can locate my book, and you can reach out to me there. I am very active on social media, though, so you can find me on Instagram at The Listening Lamb. You can find me on Facebook, Amber Washington, and then LinkedIn as well. So
awesome. Well, I will definitely be checking on you in a year.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I always say I didn't live my best life till I turned 50. So
Yeah, and I really feel like my 40s. I'm like,
uh-huh.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's rough on a woman,
Yeah. Yes.
but also
But
we
it's,
handle it just like
yep,
we handle everything else.
great
So,
things are coming
yeah,
for you. I
yeah.
feel like that's
Thank you.
amazing.
Well, thank you for
Well,
having me.
thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you soon.